All right, well, welcome back from the coffee break. I'm here with Alex and Pat, of course, and you mentioned the music, and we should mention that Alex wrote the music for this podcast. So he's
No
you
way.
know, yeah,
That
that's
was me.
right. So the intro, the whatever stuff, and the normal music. Every once in a while we'll switch it up, but usually it's from his track. I think it was called Back At or something. I
Oh,
don't really
back
know,
at
but
it.
maybe that's back. Oh, Back At It. Okay, maybe that's. I never quite got that, I guess.
Naming stuff is
So
hard.
yeah, I'm learning all kinds of stuff. We're back at it with
Some songs are titled, oh crap, what was the Smells Like Teen Spirit, which these guys were totally confused about. But Alex writes a track, and it's called Back At It, and you play it when you come back from a break. Some are literal, and some are more literal than you think they are, but it's not obvious.
True. Got that, and I guess we're talking about things that I've, not quite getting right. Last episode you mentioned something about my hands and something I was missing. Well, today I've got something new on my hands. Can you you see this, Pat?
I see 10 fingers. I see some damage.
Yeah, and you were asking me how I was doing.
Yeah, how are you doing, Jeremy?
Well, it's an interesting thing because this morning. I told my wife, I was like, yeah, it'd be nice to get the new iPhone because it's gonna have USB-C supposedly. That'd be pretty cool. And she's like, well, it's kind of expensive. I'm like, yeah, that's true. And kind of left it at that. But then I go for a run this afternoon. I tied my shoes and tied them a little bit too long, and it ended up stepping on one shoe, while the other one, and just flopped right over on the sidewalk and ended up scraping my hands up, and also my
Right on
phone
its face.
up. So yeah, I mean, it could be worse, I guess. Could have a broken tooth or something. But anyway, so I haven't even told my wife about this, but she's yeah, I feel like I'm like on some sort of like film, like Breaking Bad or something. Like, all right, well, we gotta shoot you in the arm so the injury
Yeah.
looks real. And so I've got these hands that are scraped up, and my phone's smashed. So now I have to get a new phone, and what kind of phone is that going to be? I don't know.
Maybe
Yeah.
a new
iPhone.
iPhone. You're too early. They're not even released yet, Jeremy.
Yeah. So anyway, that was my interesting story for today.
I mean, what would happen if you just
Yeah.
didn't say anything? What would happen if you didn't?
Well, nobody'd hear you. What do you mean? Nobody could hear that. That's
true.
That's
Nothing would
true.
happen.
That's a space reference. There's a Starfield reference in there somewhere. But no, like if you just like didn't bring up the phone thing until it was just noticed.
I don't know. She'd probably question me a little bit, like, what's the deal here? And I'd explain it. I mean, I don't know. She trusts me well enough that.
My wife is really mad about our last phone upgrade, Jeremy.
Really?
We were looking at the supported dates for when they were going to stop giving us Android updates on whatever Pixel 3s and 4s we had. We had different phones, but I had a 3 something, she had a 4 something. And we both got Pixel 6As, but Google let us mail them our phones. And mine had a cracked screen. Not as bad as yours. It was just one line down it. But I wrote on the form, I said, this phone has a cracked screen. And they said they were going to give me $20 more than I paid for it in trade-in. And and mine was a generation older, and they gave me $100 more than they gave Chris for her phone. She's still mad about it. If she can hear me outside this door, she's making a face out there that I got a better deal.
More than you paid for it,
did.
like at the time when you.
Yeah, and I did not get the 3A when it was new, the 3A XL. I got it, a year or two after.
Still.
But it was still new. It was a new phone 18 to 24 months before I traded it in. Yeah. That's why I said, well, I absolutely have to trade it in now if they're going to give me more than I paid for it.
Yeah.
I mean, not much more, but it was still more.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was broken a little bit. I mean, it was functional, but...
I mean, Pat, if you, if you bought...
I didn't hurt my hands.
If you bought enough phones, and then you just had them in storage, and you turn them in later, sort of like if you might say you rounded up the decimal, and then
Oh my gosh, those half pennies! I could keep all those
3.
half pennies. Superman 3 and Office Space.
No.
Alex.
That's
And
why I said it,
Office
because
Space.
they made the
Shirt. You're. Do you know, I watched Superman 3 this year.
How was it? I've never seen it.
Again, it's terrible. But
Was it the one where those people like with dark suits come to Earth and they're like, it's like
no, that's 2.
two men and
That's
a woman
number
that
2.
seem very angry. No,
3
okay.
is the one with Richard Pryor. And I'm going to tell you why I was excited. There's the whole movie's terrible. But do you guys know Luis from Ant-Man? He speaks with an accent and he explains the at the beginning of one of the Ant-Man movies, he gives you a recap of everything in very fast
What kind of accent? Does he have a Southern accent or an Australian? Was he
No,
South African,
something.
perhaps?
No, some sort of Hispanic
American
accent.
Samoa?
I don't know what locality he's from. I don't want to take a guess. But
All right.
it's slightly exaggerated, I think. But he summarizes the Marvel movies in a fast-talking, funny way. And I was really amazed because Richard Pryor explains the entire Superman about halfway through. He does the same thing. He explains everything to Superman that's been going on. I'm like, holy crap, Marvel stole that from Richard Pryor. I don't know if that's fair. I don't know if that's okay.
I haven't seen it, so I don't know.
I haven't seen Ant-Man either, which is sad because, I don't know, I think I'd like it, but I just never made time for it somehow.
It's like at some point, I watched, first 2 or 3 Iron Man movies, early, and that's like, well, after like 15 years and 100 movies later, I'm just not that interested anymore. I'm like really, you made a series about Moon Knight that's, super obscure. It was like the thing you go to the comic book store and you're like, oh, that looks interesting, but I don't have an extra $1 for that, so I'm going to buy what I usually buy. It's not, yeah, and Ant-Man too. I mean, he was like, what, one of the original Avengers and then just kind of forgotten about for the next 40 years. And then, he's got like 5 movies now. So
I never got to read comic books, Jeremy. If it wasn't on TV, I didn't get to consume it when I was young.
Okay. Were you not allowed? You were not
Well,
allowed
I don't
to
know.
read?
I don't even know where you'd buy them. I don't even know if I ever saw one for sale anywhere in Scranton.
Well, you probably had you could buy them on the internet, right?
The what?
On the BBS, you could order them on was it
We
the
couldn't even scan things. We didn't even have flatbed scanners or anything. They were too expensive.
Yeah, maybe our last guest sold them on the computer import. What's his BBS's name? The computer. All things computer.
It was a very esoteric name. It was long.
It was a good name though. I mean,
It was a good name, but he said it very fast, and we talked about more things, and I can't remember what it is. Our last guest, Brian Greiner. I remember his name. He's a very nice guy.
Very nice guy. Well, Alex, before we go,
We're going? We just got back from the coffee break, Jeremy.
well, it's true. Well, well, we don't know when the coffee break is. We may have
We can put it in any time.
we can put it anytime we want.
The magic of post-processing.
But we did, I don't get this joke. Maybe it's something I was gone, but
I just have the giggles, Jeremy.
so
Before we go, Jeremy, let's,
go.
what do you got?
all right. So Alex, we were, Pat and I were talking. I was trying to get him, because I use Twitter. Pat no longer does. Alex, I don't think does either. I've been checking out this Blue Sky app, and I was like, oh, Pat, I could, maybe you want to check that out. He said, no, I'm not cool with social media anymore, just in general.
I get that.
And Alex says, yeah, I'll check it out, but I like Mastodon because I think it's, you seem to think the underlying architecture of it is very cool for some reason. So what is this exactly? First of all, it's like a social network, kind of
Mastodon
like
is like
Twitter.
some sort of an elephant, Jeremy.
It's in Power
That's right.
Rangers.
It's like that.
Mastodon.
Okay. Well, that's
Call back to before the coffee break.
whatever that was.
Have you guys seen the thing where they edit? Do you guys know Team America, World Police?
Oh, I have seen that.
There's an edit
yes.
where they do all the Power Rangers do their little thing and they say all their things, and at the end it's Matt Damon.
Yeah.
Yeah, Matt Damon.
I gotta go. I'm gonna put that in my.
That was
Gorilla. I don't know what they all are.
that was the greatest puppet movie ever made.
Yes.
Oh man.
But anyway, Mastodon, as it's in this context, is kind of like Twitter, but it's distributed somehow. And Alex, you seem to think this the setup
Yeah.
is quite nice, even though I wasn't that impressed with it, to be honest, from a user
Absolutely.
standpoint.
No, you're 100% right. So, getting first of all, like the steps to understand Mastodon is too many. If you want to learn, if you're not somebody who's like just really deep and interested in deep into and interested in web tech, a Mastodon setup is a lot to ask to participate in a social media platform when there are so many other easier alternatives. But the thing that is beautiful about it, and I think somebody will find ways to make this more accessible. The underlying protocol is called ActivityPub, and one of the things, like, I don't know if he was joking, Pat, when he said this, but like how you're like fed up with social media. Is that true?
Well, let's get back to that, because it's not I, as a content creator, I have very different reasons for being on social media than just a regular. No. So
that makes total sense. But so I guess like I think about things that are algorithmically driven, which is weird as a guy going into the ML field. But as far as just like entertainment and exposure to culture and stuff like that, I don't know that I don't know. I'm curious from an ethics perspective. I think it's a great question to ask. Is it a good thing, like ethically good, to algorithmically expose people to what is essentially doses of dopamine? Because I don't know that it's I don't know that it's healthy, or how, maybe, but that's all aside from the point. That's one of my favorite things, is the fact that ActivityPub and Mastodon, in its implementation of it, they don't use an algorithm to show you content. It's historical, like just a regular old feed.
Right, like Twitter, which is what I like Twitter to be, and then now it's.
I have a disappointment related to this.
Okay,
Alex, I signed up for Lemmy.
Oh yeah.
Now I have interest in Lemmy for different reasons, because Mastodon, you go to, it's not mastodon.com, but you go to wherever the main Mastodon site is, and then you have to figure out which of these places do I sign up.
Yep.
Which is a bummer.
It is.
You don't know which one. And if you pick the wrong one, you get all your followers. Like me, I need followers. It's not worth posting if there's nobody who's going to read it.
Right.
So if I pick the wrong one and that one disappears, now my account is gone and all my followers are gone. And that's Lemmy does not solve that problem.
But it does at the same time. But it offloads a lot of work onto you.
Well, our podcast and my websites and some other websites, we have a Discord server. And I feel like a Lemmy server would fit well standing next to our Discord community.
Yeah.
What is Lemmy, first of all?
Lemmy is also ActivityPub, like Mastodon. It's a federated Reddit, a federated distributed Reddit clone. I don't want to say clone, but we'll say clone anyway. A link aggregator is what Reddit calls itself.
This is the problem, in my opinion. This is one of the last problems in successfully implementing ActivityPub, and it is making, how can you solve the infrastructural problem of giving somebody their own domain in which to federate to other domains? Because if you can do this, the problem is solved. Because now you don't have to worry about somebody shutting down their domain. Your domain is networked to and fed by other entities on the ActivityPub protocol. So now the domain exists so long as you choose to keep it alive. This is possible. People are doing it. It's very common already on Mastodon. I don't know about Lemmy. But the problem with that is, who wants to do that? Who wants to spin up a server, maintain it, pay for it if it's a cloud server? Who even knows right off top which provider they'd want to use, or which one's reliable, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So many questions.
Yep. And even if you find a Mastodon provider that's reliable, and no matter what it costs, you're now paying to have a server to put your account on, to be on a network where there's nobody there to listen to you.
That is.
I don't want to say nobody. That's an exaggeration.
Oh, you're talking about the Federation. How quiet it is.
Well, just all of Mastodon is a drop in the bucket compared to Twitter.
Yeah, it's and the thing is, bigger companies Okay, finally, let's come to like a truly a virtuous point of ActivityPub and thus Lemmy and Mastodon. With ActivityPub, you can own your content again. So like, if you participate, it doesn't solve your problem, Pat, where your domain can vanish and people can't find you anymore, but the content is still accessible to you. So like, so long as you are downloading that on some interval, you can continuously own that, and that's not even possible on the platforms as they exist right now. You can't. The content that you produce on there, especially in the case of Instagram, and it might be other ones, they actually own your content, and you're basically a contractor to your own content for anything that you're paid. So it's different. It's a far more ethically sound model, and I feel like it's something that that everything should eventually move towards, because these platforms are wonderful. I feel like they're run by very smart people. But I feel ultimately that the people who are creating the content are the reasons that people visit. So,
Yep.
Well, and what is ActivityPub exactly? You talk about that, but what is?
Can I oversimplify it? It's email.
Yes.
Please do. Okay.
Yeah, that's good.
That makes entirely sense. Because I honestly, I've had this thought before. It's like, well, why can't Twitter be like email?
It can be.
And
That's Mastodon.
It's really interesting.
Okay.
They're still working on the protocol. It's actually capable of it's kind of mind-boggling what can be done with it. But just imagine it like an email thread. Like everything works together, and like when you exchange a transmission or a message or whatever you want to call the packet that is your post or your content, whenever it's exchanged between servers, it actually works really similar to email servers. How the messages propagate through the servers via the senders and receivers. So if you have an instance that has a member on it, and that member interfaces with a member from another instance, the messages from their post history propagate across. So now members from the individual servers where those messages were created can now see that content, not as if it was on their own server, but it's already on that server when they choose to look for it. If they should choose to look for it.
Alex, you dislike the algorithm.
I do in this,
And I used to read Twitter through a list instead of through the main interface, so I just got a chronological timeline, just like we always used to in the old days. But Lemmy, I signed up for a Linux Lemmy thing. I don't know what you call like a sub Lemmy. A Linux one, a 3D printing one, a gaming one, and 2 or 3. Not much. I didn't subscribe to much. But the Linux sub Lemmy is ginormous.
Really?
No matter which of the sort options I pick, I hardly see any messages, any posts that are not in the Linux
That
Lemmy.
is interesting.
Like you could sort by.
I have a Lemmy account myself.
You could sort by. You could sort by hot, new, the ones with the most comments, the ones. But no matter which ones you sort by, the things in the Linux sub Lemmy are way busier than everything else.
That's so cool.
Whereas on Reddit, I at least get to see the other whatever they use to decide what floats to the top of my own list of subreddits. I at least get to see the other content besides the most active.
It's a great point, especially with something like forums, right? Like a forum aggregating service where a very active, very populated server is going to just flood the feed. It's a tough question. I don't want to pretend to be someone who has the knowledge to solve it, but I can definitely say I can call out a problem that I see, which is that the algorithms aren't necessarily tuned for enjoyment, and that's a problem to me. I don't think anybody would argue that they aren't tuned for enjoyment. They're tuned for engagement.
So I think you've been using Blue Sky. I think it's pretty good, all things considered. And my understanding of it is it uses some sort of blockchain stuff, and it doesn't seem to be algorithmicized at this point. Is that? I don't know much about it though. I don't know what are your thoughts on that, Alex? As far as a because it seems to me they're using some sort of blockchain stuff with that. I don't really know. Maybe you don't.
I don't know what protocol they're using. I can definitely speak to like the implementation of blockchain. It's different because it's when when you enter, like I guess in this case it would be a post. You can kind of shape the data however you want. Well, when you enter like a post and that gets entered into like whatever kind of ledger that the whatever the blockchain technology is that's hosting it, it's kind of similar to ActivityPub in the sense that it would probably, in whatever database that's hosting it, be chronologically sortable. But I imagine that with Blue Sky, especially with the success of Twitter and being run by Jack, what's his last name? Dorsey, thank you.
Dorsey.
That's true.
I imagine it'll probably still be algorithmically driven. At least at some point, they'll pull the feed data in.
There's no advantage for us to a private entity running a server having a blockchain. If it's not distributed, who cares? It's just
exactly.
It's just a database.
It's key terms. You're exactly right. Because the whole point of it being distributed is...
Yeah, they just want you to...
Yeah, that's exactly right.
I mean, it seems that you can get on there. We have different stuff, kind of like Mastodon, but I haven't really done the research.
So could you host
a node?
Could you host a node server for Blue Sky and then seems like a security risk?
I'm not certain, but when you try to sign on, it gives you the main one, and then I think you can sign up to a different one, but I don't really know much about it.
That's my opinion, though. It's really simple. The only thing I would really like to see is more ownership of content created by those who are doing the creating, and less of a push towards content that is potentially divisive in nature, and more towards stuff that's fun, educational, entertainment stuff. It doesn't necessarily have to go back to old APC 7 o'clock TV, but something, somewhere in that ballpark would be nice.
People have problems with Twitter, and other social stuff because, political, yada, yada, yada. And, my purpose, I don't use Facebook. I don't use Instagram. I use Twitter because I can see stuff about technology, et cetera, et cetera. But the thing that annoys me is that, when I post stuff, you can just tell it's just algorithmically so, driven. Most of my posts, I've got 4,000 something followers in there, and I'll have just X many views, and I'm like, that's not really that many. And then every once in a while I'll post something that people like, and it'll be tens of thousands. And it's no, I'd people follow me, they should see what I post.
Absolutely.
Not
this is actually this is such an interesting part of why I'm interested in ML to begin with, because I am curious to know, do the engineers of content delivery algorithms, are they aware on the deep levels of what engagement truly is from the scoring system that their algorithm creates? If you were to have psychologists analyze X number of posts, would the consensus of engagement via literary terms and clinical terms, would those correlate with what the engineering teams behind the algorithm have created? I tend to think no, but I don't know, actually. I'd be so interested to know.
I would be amazed if Twitter, at least when they still had more employees before the acquisition, I would be amazed if Twitter didn't have psychology staff analyzing this stuff. That's a great point.
There's so much money in that sector. You're probably right. They may have. It might have been a part of the analysis, the human element.
Well, I mean, I guess what I would like to think is okay, great. They'll get rid of all those people and just put it back to a, chronological timeline, but that's not what's happened whatsoever.
They have no interest in having a chronological timeline.
It's hard to drive ads that way too. I will say that from their perspective. When you do algorithmic feed generation, if you're able to tag content by its if you're able to sniff or however you want to say it, inspect the content and derive what is this about, it's a lot easier to place ads that way, which is critical.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Well, only because everybody's doing it.
That's true.
Right? If everybody wasn't trying to squeeze every ounce out of that rock.
Black Mirror stuff.
As a parent, I know that if everybody's doing it, obviously you have to do it.
Absolutely.
So.
Where's that bridge? Didn't I hear something about a bridge?
And if my kids are listening to this later in life, then that I was joking for sure there.
I started using Twitter, Jeremy, because, my blog got all of its visits, 99.9 some very large number of decimals percent of its traffic from Google search. I thought, well, it'd be nice to, get some more traffic sources. But traffic from Twitter never became a significant driver of traffic towards my other stuff. And that was a bummer.
Yeah, but you met me, and now you're on the Create and Invent podcast.
Well, yeah, that's the best thing that came out of Twitter for me, Jeremy.
Oh, that's
I got to be on this podcast.
And that's the best thing about you working where we worked before too, right?
Yeah, that was the whole kit and caboodle. What's all this been for? Office reference.
No. For this moment, Alex.
No, the money they paid me was pretty nice too. Actually, that was a good place to work. I have
same zero qualms. A great place.
Yeah, all things considered, it was a very good place to work. I don't know why I'm not mentioning it, but
yeah, I didn't because I didn't.
So I won't either because I don't know what it is.
And I was like, oh, there's a reason he's not though.
Everybody's doing it, Alex. Everybody's doing it, so you better do it.
For some reason, I feel like I shouldn't, but I mean, yeah, we're saying nice things. Right. Sprinkler.
Do you still do the bit where you bleep out favorite tools?
I think that was more of a Max.
Oh,
Max
okay.
We'll see if we bleep that later, I guess. Maybe we should. I don't know if you do this, Alex. I'm sure you do, but when you're in like a place, any place, you look up and look at their sprinklers, right?
Up?
Because
hang on a minute. My sprinklers are buried under the grass. Jeremy, am I doing this wrong?
Fire sprinklers.
You're telling me in Florida you guys hang your sprinklers up?
Gotta keep them away from the gators.
That's how we do it down here, because it's because the farther south you go than the Coriolis. So,
oh, is that true?
I was actually at the Y the other day, and I saw like one of their sprinklers. The arms on it was bent over, and I reported it because that's just what I felt like I had to do. But that's just something that you and I probably do, Alex, and probably is
I don't
not
think
normal.
So. My wife got a kick out of it though, because I would check every single hotel we would ever go to, looking at all the sprinklers.
And it's like, oh yeah, I'm thinking like, okay, that's a 5mm bulb.
For anybody listening at home, what these guys are describing, this is very much like when you buy a new car and then you notice that everybody else drives that same car now and you never noticed it before. But now everybody drives an Acura, whatever Acura Jeremy has. They're everywhere. Yeah,
I've got a 2006 Acura TL, and it's like sometimes I'll be like, okay, that's at least an '07 because it's got the blinkers on the mirrors because mine doesn't have that.
When I drove a Miata, other Miata owners were all very friendly. They're all excited to wave, and they blink their flipper headlights at you and stuff. They're very friendly people. But I have a friend who used to drive a Camaro, and he said, oh, no, they're terrible. They all give you the finger. It was a very different kind of... No, the Camaros don't have the flip-up headlights. They're just angrier people than the friendly people that drive Miatas, I guess.
Well, that's
I don't know if it's true. He told me that, so I'm assuming he's not lying to me.
Friend of mine, Eric, actually, who he said he had a Camaro, and I said, well, did you have a mullet back then too? I think he said no.
Oh my gosh, we told my nephew when he was very small. This was 15 years ago. He had a Matchbox car or a Hot Wheels Camaro, and I told him, every Camaro comes with a free mullet in the glove box. And he was like 5. He started telling people that. That was
nice. Yeah, sometimes like older people, like when you're young, older people tell you things and you repeat it in the wrong situation and they're embarrassed. You're not embarrassed, but they are.
Well, I think
a couple of those made it with me until I was like in my 30s. I can't remember what they were now, but there was a few times in my 30s where I would say something and somebody's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, it's always been that way. I'm like, no, it's never been that way. I'm like, Grandma lied.
Jeremy was in his 30s when he learned that it is not illegal to turn on the dome light in the car at night while you're driving.
Is that real?
That it's not,
like
that it is
to
legal?
Just to continuously drive with it on? Like, if they follow you for such and such...
That's legal. You're allowed.
What?
Parents tell their children that so they won't turn the dome light on while they're driving because it's harder to see. They'll tell the kids it's illegal.
Stop doing that because it's pretty annoying.
Well, I just learned that.
Just before we get going, we wanted to...
Before we get going, that's like starting, right? That's before we start, or before we
what is
leave.
What is time
What are you
even
doing
mean
to me?
these days? Are you guys still doing laser stuff for you and your wife, or your wife? Maybe
Yeah,
just your
well,
wife?
so
I don't
she
know.
is. It's been a little bit slowed down just because she still does hair and other reasons. But yeah, she
What is laser stuff?
laser cutting.
Well, it could be hair
Oh
removal
God,
or
that's true.
Oh,
like
that's a
signaling
good point.
UFOs with the.
I'm so proud of this. I told her I asked her because I want a design for like do an ASIC solution just so I can have one. I don't even care what it is yet. I think it's going to be for monitoring CO2.
And that's a application-specific integrated circuit. So you're gonna basically program this from a
Yes,
very
yes,
basic
exactly.
level,
Thank you. Sorry.
right?
Window and share. That's my cat.
Ooh,
She drew this up and made it, and
Okay.
I'm gonna like.
your
Yeah.
cat drew this
Can you
up?
believe it?
Pretty
Yeah,
good for a cat.
it was like I was super into Starfield coming out, of course, but then I just love the idea of like immortalizing the pet on the chip.
A cat in space. That's like it's like what was that game by the Kilrathi, the Pat
Wing Commander.
Wing Commander? Yeah. So basically, it's a cat with a space helmet on. It said
Yeah.
Prismo, I think. So that's pretty.
Not
neat.
just a space helmet, it's the globe, the glass globe dome of the
Yes,
whole head.
yes,
right.
Like an
Very good.
old,
Yeah,
an
yeah.
old diver,
it is. That is
old
true.
diver.
like a fishbowl.
So she's gonna cut one of those up for you, or is it?
Yeah, maybe. Like it might work
one?
out to where that's how we don't have like a life cycle plan for it or anything. I just wanted that bit of art so we'll simplify it to an SVG. It might end up being laser cut. I think I for sure want to get it on like a T-shirt for just myself, and then eventually, like I said, I'll move it to like a circuit for because some of this stuff I'm doing with the algae, it's gonna be automated. So that chip that does that control system will have a space cat on it.
So your wife does sell like laser cut stuff, right? What's her website
Sure,
or business name
it's
or
called
what?
Moongroove, and
what is,
her business name is Moongroove, or her site is Moongroove Wares. She does a lot of her stuff through Instagram at the moment. I don't know if her actual domain is still up, but that's where Instagram has been mostly her place of.
Now that we've really trashed Instagram, that's
Did we say something bad about Instagram?
Nothing directly bad, just that they own your content.
Yeah.
unless you sell it.
That's true.
Unless you sell
They
content.
don't own any
That's
physical products, or do they?
So-
Do they? No, I've never read the terms.
I don't know.
They could own me.
If you wanted people to find you, where could they?
I mostly am just blogging now. I've shut down on social media. I'm focused on school at the moment. So my little blog is alexdwilson.dev, and I post on there about my coolest and most popular work is programming the Raspberry Pi Pico with Rust. And people like
Okay.
that. People like my stuff about Angular, specifically one post about a weird error that occurs that's very, very, very specific. But I guess there's just not many answers out there for it.
Okay.
And yeah, that's just blogging right now.
Nice. So
Where can we
it's,
find you, Jeremy?
Yeah, so you can find me at jeremyscook.com. I post there. I think last time was on 2021 maybe. So I haven't been keeping that up too well.
Man, that was the 90s, Jeremy.
Yeah, you could dial into my BBS at 864 to yeah, so you could find me. I mean, if you look up Jeremy Cook on YouTube, you should find me. Or actually, I think somebody else is above me, but you can tell which one is me. Just put on Jeremy as Cook. Search me on the internet.
You can tell
whatever.
it doesn't even have his picture on there. Doesn't it have a logo?
Yeah, that's right. It's like a
No.
Strong Beast logo. Also, I've been working on this Raspberry Pi RP2040. It's like a dev board basically that I made up. So
Jeremy,
anyway, that's
I
been
keep
kind of
seeing
my,
pictures of that, renders of that on our Discord server, but I didn't know we could see it in real life now.
Yeah, it's actually working. So this is a RP2040 chip that I've integrated with all the extra components. It's blinking light.
Is that the RP2040? Is it the big chip right in the middle?
Yeah, it's this one right here. So yeah, that's something I'm working on. I think I've got a YouTube video, like a short on this.
That's wild. Like, that's pretty cool, man.
Thanks, man. Yeah, it's a weird thing because these things, once you do it, it almost seems simple in a way, but it's like a series of all these other things
unfortunate
have to
events.
come together perfectly. And I guess that's how anything complicated is. It's all these simple things that have to be put together perfectly. And so, yeah. So anyway, you can find me at, look up Jeremy Cook and maybe you'll find some of that. Anyway, what about Pat? What about you? Where can we find you?
Don't come to the internet to find me. If you're looking for my stuff, you'll find it. But I'm supposed to remember to plug our Discord server every week. Week? Do we do these we don't do these every week.
Not every month, but week, month.
Yeah.
What's the difference?
If you go to butterwhat.com/Discord, and we'll flash that up on the screen, or it'll be down below here somewhere. I mean, we don't know. It'll be there somewhere. You could come and you could type words at me and Jeremy and lots of other folks. And you could see this Raspberry Pi thing that he's working on, because he's been posting updates every few days, asking questions. There it is.
Asking questions. Sometimes you'll get answers there.
Yeah, why is it making noise? Why is it got a noisy signal or something? Was today's question.
Yeah, that was my question. I still don't know. So it's but people have opinions, and maybe they're true, maybe they're not.
There's only one way to find out.
What is that? What is that way, Pat? I would like to
do
I'd
it.
like to know that.
Do it and see what try it and see what happens.
Yeah. Well, if it affects anything, I guess. So. Yeah, but it's been one big rabbit hole, it seems. As is my life.
Like a deep rabbit hole, or like a big rabbit lives in there, like a big fat rabbit dug a big hole.
Real shallow.
Like a skinny. Yeah. Well, maybe not that shallow, just not like as deep, or is it a?
It's like,
or is it one little rabbit digging a silo, just going?
Well, I thought it was a rabbit hole, but then I realized how big it was, and there was like a pig down there. It was just burrowing.
What's he doing here?
I don't know.
I'm sorry. I just imagined like a really lethargic rabbit digging like a shallow bowl of a hole, but he's just really he's huge, but he's just laying in it like.
It was an obese rabbit.
Alex, we have a squirrel out here that digs a shallow bowl of a hole, and he just sits in there when it's hot. Right outside the window, the cat watches him. He just digs this hole about yay big, about like this.
It's weird.
And you can see he's just spread out in there. He's like
little ground
on his belly.
Provide cooling or something.
There must be cool dirt under the mulch or something.
Well, that's not a bad idea. That's smart.
I'm not a squirrelologist, though. I figured you guys might know more.
I don't, but that sounds cool.
If you were a squirrelologist, you'd know the real name for it, which I don't.
For squirrelology?
Squirrel. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Well,
Alex is Googling.
I'm asking, what are people called who study squirrels? No, that can't be right. It's so close to squirrelologist. It's so close. I'm going to put it in the chat.
Whoa!
Scurryologist.
A scurry? I do not know.
All right, well.
There you go.
Yeah, you know what? If this podcast has taught you nothing today, at least you know, if you study squirrels, if you want to be a squirrel master when you grow up, you can be a scurryologist or
if
something. If
they told me 25 years ago that when I went to college, I could have studied whatever this is to study squirrels, man, that could have been life-changing.
It could have, but I mean, maybe not.
Just to put this on my business card. Can you imagine?
I guess you could. You could just put it on your business card. Why not?
You can't spell this without croissants. Look at this word.
You know a little bit about squirrels. You know they bury in the thing. So, yeah, you've studied squirrels. You're a squirrel.
I'm one of these.
Whatever that is. So,
we'll ask Adriano Celentano if this is a real word.
Adriano, and yeah. So, with that, we'll... guess that's the podcast.
Is that the end?
Is it the end?
Is the music playing?
It's gotta be. I'm gonna hit the button. Oh, that was it. I hear that.